It is India's diplomacy in action. Over 10,000 Indian nationals have been released from prisons abroad under the Modi government's proactive efforts in a shining example of diplomacy at work. The UAE has recently pardoned 500 Indian prisoners ahead of Ramzan, bringing the total number of Indian nationals released from foreign jails to over 10,000 since 2014. This extraordinary milestone underscores the Narendra Modi government's proactive and people-centric approach to diplomacy with a clear emphasis on the welfare of Indian citizens abroad. From Gulf countries to neighboring nations like Sri Lanka and Pakistan, India's diplomatic machinery has been operating in an overdrive, securing the release of thousands of Indian nationals, prisoners, fishermen, civilians through high-level negotiations, sustained diplomatic engagement and sometimes personal interventions by the Prime Minister. Well, sources describe this as diplomacy in action, crediting PM Modi's leadership and personal rapport with global leaders for many of these breakthroughs. Whether it's fishermen detained by Sri Lankan authorities, Navy veterans facing harsh sentences in Qatar, or prisoners in Saudi Arabia and Iran, India's unwavering commitment to its citizens has resulted in successful interventions time and again. Let's take a closer look at some of the most notable diplomatic successes that have facilitated the release of Indian nationals abroad. UAE, there have been pardons for 2,783 Indian prisoners. It's a testament to the strong bilateral ties India has with the UAE, which is a key partner in India's extended neighborhood. This has repeatedly been demonstrated the goodwill towards Indian nationals thanks to the warm relationship between PM Modi and the UAE leadership. Since 2014, the UAE has pardoned 2,783 Indian prisoners, reflecting deepening bilateral ties. In 2025, the latest act of clemency saw over 500 Indian prisoners pardoned ahead of the holy month of Ramzan, showcasing the ongoing diplomatic efforts to secure their release. In 2024, 944 Indian prisoners were pardoned before Eid and UAE National Day. In 2023, more than 700 Indian prisoners received clemency, and in 2022, 639 prisoners were freed following negotiations. This consistent pattern of clemency highlights the UAE's recognition of India's growing global influence and the deepening trust between the two nations. Saudi Arabia, 850 Indian prisoners freed in a landmark 2019 visit during Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's high-profile visit to India in 2019. A major diplomatic breakthrough, in fact, was achieved when he ordered the release of 850 Indian prisoners. This unprecedented gesture marked a significant milestone in India-Saudi relations and showcased the success of high-level diplomacy in securing the rights and freedoms of Indian citizens abroad. Qatar, saving Indian Navy veterans from death row. Well, one of the most high-stakes diplomatic victories came in 2023 when 8 Indian Navy veterans who had been sentenced to death in Qatar were granted clemency following intense diplomatic efforts by the Indian government. This intervention not only saved lives but also demonstrated India's ability to handle sensitive negotiations at the global level. India's diplomatic outreach to Iran has also yielded positive results, leading to a release of a total of 120 Indian prisoners in recent years. 2024, for example, saw 77 Indians, including several fishermen, were released after sustained talks, and in 2023, another 43 prisoners, including 12 fishermen, were freed from Iranian custody. These releases again underscore India's ability to maintain strong ties with countries across the geopolitical spectrum, even amidst regional complexities. In Bahrain, for example, 250 Indians were freed during PM Modi's visit in 2019. The Gulf nation pardoned 250 Indian prisoners in a gesture that reflected the deep personal ties between the leaders and the growing importance of India in the Gulf region. In Kuwait, sentence and reductions in pardons happened in 2017. Another diplomatic success, the Emir of Kuwait ordered the release of 22 Indian prisoners and reduced the sentences of 97 others after discussions with the Indian leadership in 2017. This showed how sustained diplomacy can yield both immediate and long-term benefits for Indian nationals abroad. Sri Lanka, we saw 3,697 fishermen released since 2014 by Sri Lanka. Well, for years, Indian fishermen have faced detention by Sri Lankan authorities for straying into the island's nation's waters. Since 2014, the Modi government's regular interventions have resulted in the release of 3,697 Indian fishermen, providing relief to countless families in India's coastal regions. These releases are a testament to India's proactive diplomacy as well as its commitment to protecting the livelihoods of its people. Pakistan. 2,639 fishermen, 71 civilians have been freed by Pakistan. Since 2014, relations between India and Pakistan have often been tense. But even in this challenging environment, India has managed to secure the release of nearly 2,600 Indian fishermen and over 70 civilian prisoners since 2014. This demonstrates the government's relentless pursuit of justice and freedom for its citizens, even in difficult circumstances. Well, this is a new era of citizen-centric diplomacy. The Modi government's diplomatic efforts reflect a shift towards a more citizen-centric foreign policy where the welfare of Indians abroad is a top priority. PM Modi's personal rapport with global leaders has been a key factor in many of these successes, with sources pointing out to the strong trust and goodwill that he has built with world leaders over the past decade. The numbers tell a powerful story. Over 10,000 Indian nationals freed from prisons around the world due to India's diplomatic interventions. Behind each number is a human story of fishermen reunited with their families, prisoners given a second chance, and citizens who found hope because their country didn't forget them. As India's global stature continues to rise, these diplomatic successes serve as a reminder that India's influence is not just about economic growth or strategic power. It's also about standing up for its people wherever they may be. This is diplomacy in action. This is India's growing global footprint. And this is a government that puts its citizens first, whether at home or abroad.